We're talking about barriers. We know that if our bureaucratic load is too high, it becomes difficult for people to make it through. And it's expensive, quite frankly. We have taken steps and are continuing to take steps to take a look at all of our rules and regulations on a regular basis. We can control some of the regulatory environment. We can control is the ability to put together or help individuals or development-minded people put together funding stacks. Right? So funding stacks are the various ways that you would pay for a project. And that's not just at the City of Keene level. I'm involved with a number of state efforts along those lines, where we're looking at the barriers that exist to construction and development. We keep putting our foot forward with the various state agencies along those lines to make it more and more possible for people to put together housing opportunities. And we continue to do that here with our own processes. It takes time. It's not something you can turn a switch and all of a sudden quit doing what we've been doing for 30 years, but we've made an awful lot of progress. Our first step in this process was really to take a look internally to determine what sort of barriers we could identify. And this is mostly in the zoning and planning processes. One of the first steps that was taken was to combine the planning department and the code enforcement department into a community development department. The intention is that you come to one place and you're able to make your applications, have those applications monitored and advocated for. To accompany that, we've made changes to ordinances and are continuing to make changes to ordinances. So we're kind of at step one with the ordinance changes. We've done a review of the Code of Ordinances and have identified areas in the first instance where we thought we needed to make changes. Resulting from that, and it was a 3-year effort, was the creation of the Land Development Code. And the main intention of that was modernization in general, but it was also to locate a number of those regulations in one place. It outlines the various processes. We also modernized a number of the uses that were permitted. And the purpose of that was, at its heart, as we did the research on this particular document, what we concluded was we had not had a substantial change, even though we had it in the master plan in 2010, related to these documents to update them, to make them modern. When we were doing the discussions with the public on this, the analogy that I used, which was helpful to older folks like me, was that the last time we did that, the Beatles had released the White Album. So what sort of uses were prevailing at that time made sense in the community at that time. What we were able to accomplish with that Unified Development Code, which proudly, I think, the city was able to adopt that unanimously in our, what used to be Central Business District, which was our core district. Density factors are no longer considered by the amount of land. Usually what happens is you look at the land, you look at how much stuff can fit on the land. Right? Instead, we went to something called form-based. And by going to form-based, what it does is it outlines the shape and height and elements of the building. It doesn't care so much about what's in the building. And it's probably going to be the model that we're going to use in further steps that we take. But the intention is to thoroughly shake out all of our land development codes and modernize them. And how far we modernize them is going to be dependent on the public. Obviously the public has a big say in this. But it's also an attempt to bring these documents out of the 70s and bring them into the modern age.